Oskaloosa City Council. Today is June 19th, 2023. We start with the invocation from Lifehouse Community Church.
My name is Pastor Adam Kyle from Lifehouse Community Church. I'm just going to read a couple lines of scripture and then I'm going to pray. You, God, are my God. Earnestly I seek you. I thirst for you. My whole being longs for you in a dry and parched land where there is no water. Please pray with me. Lord Jesus, we're so grateful to be in your presence today. God, we thank you so much. You're all-knowing, all-powerful, always present. You're always good. You're kind. You're merciful and compassionate. Please forgive us of our sins, Lord. Any words or thoughts or deeds that we regret. I thank you, God, for this community and the city and these city council members. I thank you, God, for the roof over our head, that we have a place to meet and that we can fellowship with one another and put each other first and love our neighbors. I ask, God, as this meeting goes on tonight, that you would fill the city council members and these people here with wisdom and understanding and kindness and compassion. I pray for this city. Lord, will you keep us from the ways of the world and the things that go on outside of this community. And I pray, Lord, that there will be much blessing, and please give these city council members great favor. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Allman. Here. Burnett.
Here.
Caligari.
Here.
Comfort.
Here.
Drost. Hermson.
Here.
Ocean.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Okay, first item up tonight is the opportunity for community comments. This item is reserved to receive comments from the community for concerns whether or not they're included on the current agenda. The community is encouraged to speak before the mayor and city council, asked to keep statements brief, time limited to no more than 3 minutes. Any questions are to be asked of the city staff, council members, or the mayor prior to speaking to the full council, so concerns may be properly researched and answered away from the meeting. Comments are to be directed to the mayor and city council only. In essence, what do you want us to know? Is there anyone who would like to speak tonight? Name and address, please.
Brant Bowman, 1211 South Market Street. I just wanted to just give a big shout out to Oskaloosa for how awesome the Art on the Square week went. I mean, it's become not just a few hours of Saturday, but a lot of parallel events going on, and we had the trolley alley open up, and we had Jennifer Drinkwater Swanson had an art show called What's Good Oskaloosa, where she visited the town many times and painted a series of paintings about what's good in Oskaloosa. And we had a historical presentation in the art center, and just all around the downtown there was all these different things going on that were art centered, and the paintings in the windows, and it was just there's an awesome buzz going on. So it was just a really great celebration of what makes us special, and I just can't wait to see it grow more and more.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Keeping in that theme. I'm Pam Bogren. I live on North 10th here in Oskaloosa. Shortly after Oskaloosa was designated a great place, Mayor Creutzfeldt signed a proclamation that established Ink Stains Poetry Day in Oskaloosa, and he said prior to that, arts are interwoven into Oskaloosa's culture, and attention should be given to creative writing as well. Thank you. Us writers, thank you. The proclamation included several phrases that were relevant to why I and another Ink Stains poet is here this evening. Phrases that were like words raised to art form, acknowledging poetry as part of the arts, words essential to creativity, and creating word as art. 9 days ago, as Brent said, Oskaloosa Main Street held its 54th annual Art on the Square. The phrases I just mentioned played a large part in the Ink Stain poets, who I am representing here tonight, in approaching the Planning Committee of Art on the Square. Planning Committee, we asked that literary arts could be part of Art in the Square, not to be part of the juried art show, but to be part because we believe that words are also art. We ask that ink stained poets and that the creative Oskaloosa Write Club could also be part of Art in the Square. We are happy to announce, and if you were at Art in the Square, you perhaps saw our booth, that literary arts for the first time in 54 years was part of Art in the Square. I appreciate the creativity of this community, Mayor, for providing the catalyst, if you will, for giving us that little oomph that we needed to actually approach them and say, words are art as well. But I'm not done. One of the activities of our booth was to create a community poem. We encouraged people as they walked by our booth to write one line anonymously on a poem that grew as the day went on. We weren't sure how this experiment was going to go. We weren't sure if we were going to have a poem at the end of the day. We weren't sure how many words we were going to have to maybe scratch out because we know, the malicious nature still exists sometimes. We are happy to say, however, we do have a poem. We actually ended up the day with 4 poems. And what I'd like to do is turn it over to Kathy, who is going to read one of those poems for you and then end with any closing remarks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm Kathy Guerin Christie, and I live at 1108 C Avenue East in Oskaloosa, and we moved up here just because of this art scene a year and a half ago, and we just love it. So anyway, this is the book that we had at our booth, and Dare to Begin, which seemed apropos. So I'll quickly read one of our poems, one of our community poems. So Ink Stains, one of the members of Ink Stains did the first line, and then 14 different members of the community added a line. When I read it, I will pause after each person's entry so you'll know that that was one person. It was a dark and stormy night. Our senses were heightened to the max. A loud boom frightened our cat. The coyotes howled, and the moon was a deep red like a fresh cut bouquet of roses. We were on our way to find ourselves once again and grow on our journey towards infinite horizons. There, the bears bear the magic of infinite possibilities and the love of the unknown. For what is better than to explore and expand, loving everything more each day than all the days before? With the beautiful day, popcorn and coffee, what more do you need? She trembled with fear as the footsteps approached. So we thought that was awesome for 15 people total to do this poem. It was a great thing.
Wonderful
And
project.
thank you for the opportunity to let us do that.
Alicia Helm, and I live at South Market Street, and I'm just here to remind you that I'm out gathering petition signatures, and from what I understand, everyone is excited for November because they have a chance to vote who is in City Council, and they're excited for the change, and hopefully there'll be a positive change. And another thing, please exit the 2088 agreement. There is no need for this airport. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else care to speak tonight?
Larry Russell, 2877 Fairfax. I'm here to represent my son. Couldn't be here. He lives at 1307 South 2nd, and it's an alley vacate there. I think it's on the agenda tonight. He has an overhead door. He bought the place last fall, and it has an overhead garage door facing the alley, and that was one of the reasons he moved to this town. He wanted the garage, and that was a big part of it. He's 19 years old. And we tried to get the guy to move the camper out of the alley last fall, so we could get in there and get the work done. He refused. So this time he got it out of storage. I had to get code enforcement, or my son did, to get it to move the alley. Then the next day he came up and tried to buy the alley, basically. It is gravel from 13th Avenue East to the end of his property line. So it'd be foolish for him to come up on the grass where all the trees are coming down from the north and going through 4 properties instead of 2. And yeah, it's just, and at the Planning and Zoning Committee is on the minutes. One of the members there actually took his personal Ford pickup or whatever it was and came in from 13th and got to my son's and went to 1309, and the canopy of trees, he didn't feel trustworthy to make it through there, so he backed on out. And that's on the minutes. So that's my 3 minutes, I guess. But that's,
Okay.
all right. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Steve Watts. I'm the owner of 1311 South 2nd on this alley. I've lived at this property for 35 years. For the last 20 years, I have parked my camper along my garage. My garage is 7 feet off of the alley. My camper is 8.5 feet wide. If I add another 6 inches, stay away from the garage, that's 8 feet, or 9 feet, excuse me. The alley is 16.5 feet. I do not want to actually close the alley to traffic. I just like to park my camper in front or alongside my garage. I cleaned up all the brush on the north end. It is possible everybody can come in from the north. If you look at it, been there in the last couple days, you can see there's been a lot of traffic come in from the north. You can see the tracks coming in. Other than that, that's all I have to say.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And again, we'll be talking about this again later in the meeting as well.
Okay.
Anyone else care to speak tonight? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Next item up is the consent agenda. These are all items that are handled through a single motion. They're pretty much routine in nature. And so I didn't feel the need to call anything in particular out on this. Do we have a motion of support for the consent agenda?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Burnett,
Yes.
Caligari,
Yes.
Comfort,
Yes.
Hermson,
Yes.
Ocean,
Yes.
Almond,
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Okay, next up is getting into the regular agenda. First item is a discussion on the project to dredge the pond at Edmondson Park. And so in the capital improvement plan that was part of our budget, there was an item to dredge the sediment in the Edmondson Park pond. The pond is used for recreational purposes, needs regular maintenance. Staff is unaware of when or if the pond has been previously dredged, so it has solicited a depth analysis report from Midwest Dredging. So the initial estimate for the pond dredging was around $70,000, but it didn't include trucking or dumping fees for the material dredged. And a report is showing there might be as much as twice as much material as expected. So we're still waiting on it. At this writing, we're waiting for an updated estimate before we're proceeding to bid the project. And the pond is beginning to have some significant algae buildup, requiring chemical treatments about every 2 weeks. So while dredging would help with improving the water quality and decreasing the algae growth, staff believes that this will continue to be an issue going forward. And so we're here to offer some direction as far as whether we want to allocate additional funds to dredging, if we want to allocate funding for more chemical treatment, investigating if there are certain fish species that we should put in there, or perhaps the addition of a fountain, aeration, filtration equipment, or other bacterial pond treatments. So, Sean, anything to tell us?
Yeah, I think that mostly covers everything. I did receive the updated estimate this morning for the dredging, and this estimate does add the trucking, and it ends up being $151,650 is what the estimate is. And then also we need to take out an additional $1,000 for the assessment that was already done in the CIP.
Okay. Okay.
Any idea when the last time was this baby was dredged?
I do not. And,
Okay.
no one, I don't think.
No record?
The Public
Okay.
Works Department has anything. We've done
We have
a
a-
little bit.
Can you offer some insights?
Yes, I worked for the street department, for 37 years.
Yeah.
I started in 1980, and that pond was dredged in 82.
Okay.
I do remember.
So 40 years ago.
Every 4 years,
40
okay.
years.
That's not bad.
All right.
And I have seen some recommendations that are more around 20 years would be kind of the maximum length of time before dredging. Probably in our case, it may need to be something we plan to do slightly more often than that because of this being an outlet for our storm sewer system. Part of the reason that the cost is as high as it is there's, if you can go back to the previous, to the document you were just on, and then to that image one higher. So you can see there's a circled area there. That is packed sand, which is kind of unusual for a pond. You don't usually get sand, but if you look, there's the arrow for the inlet. So there's a lot of material from our streets that is outletting directly to that area, and the sand is the first thing that's going to settle out. So it all settled out there, and there's just a pack of hard sand there that needs to be dredged. So that also contributed pretty significantly to the increase from what we had planned.
What's the second number under the line?
The top number is the depth to the surface of where they touched any material, and the second number is how deep they were able to put the probe into that material.
Okay.
So basically that's the amount of material they would plan to take out when they're doing the dredging. So with the packed sand, they couldn't get a measurement because we can't push a probe down into sand, but you can see a lot of these numbers are, I mean, at minimum, we've got an inch and a half along most of the outside and gets as deep as the 4 or 5 inches or feet in the middle of it.
Okay.
Have we done any kind of environmental impact on all the wildlife that's living there? Dredging can be horribly disruptive. That's the point of it.
There certainly will be an impact. I guess we haven't done a full environmental study in that.
Yeah.
We don't have a particularly ecologically diverse pond. This is a small pond. It's not really an ecosystem in and of itself.
Well, any pond is. I would
But
disagree
to-
with
to
you.
some
A
extent,
2-foot
yes.
pond can be.
Right, but this is a pond that we've stocked with fish before. I think
Right.
other people in the community have stocked it before
Right.
as well. So we would expect to see an improvement because one of the issues that we are having is algae, and dredging does help reduce algae buildup. It gives less opportunity for some of the non-native
Right.
plants and things in the bed
Right.
of the sediment to grow.
But there's also all sorts of animals that could eat algae as well. I'm a little concerned with the chemical input. I don't know on that, and I don't know where we're putting the dredging, where we're putting the soil and the sand. How far are we hauling it?
I don't know the final haul location. That'd be up to the contractor where they took it. If they'd have to dispose of it somewhere that's willing to take that material, which may be the landfill, it may be somewhere else, I don't know.
Right. Sometimes it's useful, sometimes it's not. Again,
Yeah.
that's also part of the environmental.
Right, and we'll have to find out. They'll have to find out how much garbage is in it. There will be. I will say that the method of dredging that Midwest dredging proposed is supposed to be non-destructive to the fish life that's there.
Okay.
So I'm not going to claim that no fish will be impacted, but it's not. Some forms of dredging end up having a fish wipe out, and that's not supposed to happen here.
So there's a staff recommendation to allocate additional funds, get the dredging done. And then, I'm not an expert on the dredging business, but you mentioned about every 20 years as far as you would want it to go. If a person were to be on a schedule of dredging, say, every 15 years, would there be the need for mechanical aeration or any other kind of algae treatments, do you think, or would that pretty well handle it?
I would say it's likely that we're going to need some form of other treatment. One other thing that's happened that's not necessarily, we can't necessarily prove that this is how it's gone, but it is potentially related, is that we did have some water main issues, some things we determined to be water main issues that were just upstream of this, especially along South 8th Street. We had a pretty prolific leak that was going on for a long time there that's been fixed in the last 2 years, a year. And so many of the chemicals that would be in our water main would probably
Oh.
reduce algae growth to some extent. So our theory is that being fixed means that's not happening anymore. Essentially, we're chemically treating this to some extent, whether we meant to be or not.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about the cost of treatment?
So what we've been doing for treatment, it's about $30 a gallon, what we're using currently. It's use 1 gallon per 10,000 square foot, and that pond is roughly 52,000 square foot of surface area. So it's $150 to $200 per treatment, and we've been doing it about every 2 to 3 weeks.
So when you say treat, what do you mean?
We're using a chemical copper sulfate.
Okay.
It is used in small enough limits not to hurt aquatic life.
Okay.
So that's in the instructions how it's mixed.
Okay.
The other thing I think with the pond we're going to fight is without having potential flow from leaks. The water's becoming stagnant. Unless we get rain, there's nothing pushing that water through. So
That's what I was going to ask. What
we're
type
gonna
of pond is it?
continue
Does it have a creek or anything coming
No.
into it? It's just a standalone pond. Okay.
As far as I understand, it's just
The only inlet is our stormwater flow, and then any overland flow that makes it into it, but it does not have a very large
Was
catch
it
area.
was it a natural pond or was it a man-made pond for the?
I believe it was man-made.
Okay.
So as far as
So that makes a different kind of.
As far as like with the
structure.
ecosystem, I mean, there's
Right.
going to be a lot of garbage that you see on the side of the roads and
There's
everything
nothing
that's going to be in
flowing.
that material. So I
Sure.
don't feel there will be a ton of value to the material that's stretched out.
I give the historic tour on the dredge boat at the Mississippi River Museum, so I do know a little bit.
Okay. So it seems to me that the first thing we have to do is dredge the thing out. And so, regardless, if we weren't to do it, we'd be looking at perhaps a building problem going forward. Is that probably a right assessment?
Yeah, I mean, this problem isn't going to get any better.
Yeah.
If we do nothing, eventually there will not be a pond.
Okay. So we had budgeted 70,000, so now we're looking, this is an estimate of $152,000. Do we have the funds to be able to do this sort of thing, or is it something that we would have to rebudget for?
We do.
Okay. Okay.
And our current budget is 90,000. 70,000 was the estimate.
Oh, okay. So 90,000 is what we budgeted. Okay. So we still have to, we would exceed that line item anyway.
When does our park director start? I'd sort of like to see the park director be involved in this since it's part of the park. No disrespect to engineers, but they approach problems differently.
Hopefully the 17th.
Okay.
We're still waiting on the process. We have regional offer.
Okay.
And pond dredging is a common procedure. Any environmentalist that
I know,
is
I-
involved with ponds would say that it needs to be dredged periodically.
Yeah.
It's not,
Yeah,
it's not unusual.
I grew up on a lake that was dredged periodically, so it just has to be done in a certain way. And sometimes you can save money by doing it more environmentally. So that might be something to look at. You know, there's lots of ways to dredge.
Certainly.
So how long does the process take? Would we be looking at shutting down the area around the pond while dredging would happen?
So the schedule that we were given is that essentially there'd be a 4 to 6 week period of actually removing the material from the pond. After that, they put this material in these in bags essentially and allow them to drain out because obviously the sedimentation holds a lot of water and they don't want to haul off 90% water. So they put these bags out. They're about 22 foot wide by 100 foot long. Ideally, they'll be placed in a location such that they'll drain back to the pond, so we'll just recover any of the water that we need. That said, there is some grading that's needed. The bags themselves have to be on a kind of flat area. We've come up with a couple ideas for where it could go, one of which is the parking lot by the baseball diamond that's adjacent to there. There's also a little bit of room along the southwest bank. But those are specifics that we can get into as we approach actual design. Once those bags are there, they recommend to leave them for at least 3 months to allow them to dewater. That ideally they do that work they do the dredging work in autumn, and leave it for 3 months during the winter. So this wouldn't be, ideally, this wouldn't be happening when people would be in the park anyway.
Okay.
And that lets the wildlife that's in those bags go back into, you know, because there's lots of microorganisms and tiny little, tiny little critters. So if the bags are big enough to allow that as well, the holes in the bag, the aeration.
I would assume so. I guess I don't know that detail offhand.
So I heard you, Lisa, saying would you like to hold off on a decision, waiting for a recommendation from Park Director? I'm anxious to hear from the rest of the council on this.
I'd be in favor of just going forward with dredging.
Yeah, it needs, I buy what it needs done. It's bad.
Okay.
I'd rather wait a couple weeks till the park director started and just to have a little bit of input. I think it actually could save us money.
Yeah.
You know, just having a few other ideas on that process, since we're not doing it till the autumn anyway.
Yeah.
Correct?
I think we need to make a commitment, right, in terms of saying we would like to get on their schedule. Is that right?
So, I mean,
Yeah.
this being as large as it is, this is going to have to be publicly a bid in some way or another. The details, it is a maintenance project, so it's not necessarily going to have to be engineered or anything like that, but it will have to be available to a public bid. So there will be time before it starts regardless. There are some details in terms of how much we want to dictate in terms of means and methods, and you know, like I said, there's different ways to dredge, some of which are more destructive and others that are less destructive. And so getting into the details of what we want that to look like is going to be a part of the decision-making process. I think, to my knowledge, I would want to see a process that's going to be particularly disruptive to the fish.
So you're saying the park director could be part of that process after a bidding?
Yes, I do think it would be wise for us to bid sooner rather than later because these schedules do fill up.
Right.
The company that did this assessment for us has already said that fitting this in the autumn for them is going to be difficult, and if they were able to, they would rather do it in the summer and let it be autumn when they're letting the bags out. But realistically speaking, that's going to be difficult for us with the park.
Okay. Right. So as I read the council opinions, I'm seeing the sense that, yeah, we would like to go ahead with getting this thing going. And then, yeah, once there's bid received, then we can also, it still comes back to us anyway. So there's the opportunity to be as environmentally friendly as we can as we set the bid specs, I assume. So, okay, does that give staff enough to work with? Yes. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Sean. Okay, item B. This is to consider a resolution approving the final plan, specs, form of contract, and estimated cost for the South 7th Street Improvements Project. The Garden Associates prepared the plans and specs. The project is going to be funded through the Iowa Department of Transportation through a surface transportation block grant that's been approved by the Area 15 Regional Planning Authority. Scope of the work, it's a 31-foot wide PC concrete roadway, including storm sewer intakes, storm sewer piping, granular subbase, subdrains, grading, and miscellaneous associated work with the, if the project's awarded, construction starting around July 17th, pending the notice of award and then 75 working days assigned for the project. Bids will be presented to the City Council following a public hearing on Monday, June 19th, 2023. And so this does require a public hearing, and I'll open the public hearing at this time if there's anyone who would like to speak. Okay. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Do we have a motion of support from the council?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Calgery,
Yes.
Comfort,
Yes.
Hermson,
Yes.
Ocean,
Yes.
Almond,
Yes.
Burnett,
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Item C. This is to consider a resolution on vacation and sale of the 56.2-foot by 16.5-foot section of the north-south alley adjacent to 1311 South 2nd Street. Staff did receive the alley vacate request from Steve Watts, the owner of the property. And let's see, he would like to purchase the land in order to use it for vehicle storage. The subject alley located in a residential R2 zoning district. City staff conducted a survey of the property owners with direct access to the alley and utility companies. 9 property owners surveyed for the request, 7 responses received. 3 responses were received, including Mr. Watch, that were not opposed to the proposal. 4 responses were received that were opposed to the proposal, all indicating they needed the alley to access their properties. There are multiple existing utilities in the alley, so a permanent easement would be required if that alley is vacated. If the alley were to be vacated, the city would need to consider an easement for access to the adjoining properties. Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed the request at their meeting on June 6th of 2023, recommended to deny the alley vacate by a vote of 6-1. And so this, this does require a public hearing, and so I'll open that at this time. Is there anyone who would care to speak? Okay. So let's see. Could we get the map put up there on screen?
Yeah.
May I ask a question?
Yeah, fire away.
It said 4, but there's 5 property parcels that are red.
2 of the properties are owned
By the same person? Okay, great. Thank you.
And Robert's rules. I needed to have a motion before we got the
Yeah, I
conversation
wondered about
started.
that. Yeah, so that's why I asked.
Do you want to make a motion?
To have
We
conversation?
can. Nope. It'd be a motion to either approve or deny.
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to approve the vacate of the alley for 1311.
Okay. So we have motion to approve. Do we have a second for that?
I have a question about the alley. Okay.
Gotta get a second. Going once.
Yeah, I'm good.
Going twice. Okay. Motion dies for lack of a second.
Okay.
Do we have another motion?
I'll make a motion to deny.
Okay.
Second.
And a second on that. Okay. Now, question on the alley.
So I drove it, or I went down there, and my concern for closing it is that the gravel ends, and so maintenance and getting a vehicle into that garage that you're talking about. I was actually at that house not too long ago. Wintertime, weather time, I think the only entrance to me looked like it looked like from the south currently, unless that was gravelled. So that would be probably the reason that I would say that I would not like to vacate it. So.
Okay. Other comments?
Yes. I drove down that alley today twice, and I don't see any issues as far as coming from the north. And as I drove down the alley, all the brush has been cleared. And I know there's like 2 houses, I guess, on the east side that have fences back in their backyard, so I don't see what, if they have access or if they use access from the alley. I see the property that has these 2 goats. They might use the access to move their goats or something. And as far as that garage goes back there, you can access from the north or the south, and I saw the way the vehicle was parked on this today, it looked like it came in from the south, and then on another occasion I was out there, it looked like the vehicle came in from the north unless it was backed in or whatever. But I don't see where it's going to hinder anybody using that alley, even if you vacate half of the alley down on for 1311. But there is an access from the north. Yeah, it's got grass on it because it wasn't used as much. We have a lot of alleys on paper here that's got grass in it. We have a lot of alleys that may have a lot of utilities in it. But through the history here, we've been vacating, when possible, portions of the alley or all of the alley to homeowners, and we look like we're doing now if it's going to interfere with anybody using the alley. And personally, I don't see how it's going to do that.
Why would he want to rock from 12th to his place when it's already rocked from 13 up to 1307? So we're talking
It's a long way.
4 houses there and 6 up this way that needs mowed or gravel. Who's going to gravel that? Why would he want to vacate his alley when he's already got gravel there from 13 to east?
Sir, this is.
Oh.
Okay.
The public hearing's been done. Okay.
Can
Yeah.
I just ask a terminology question? Because alleys come up quite a bit, and later I'd like to see us do a more formal study of our alleys. University Park has done that, and when we say vacate that yellow portion,
Okay. Does that mean they have rights to it, but there's still access to go through it?
That's
or
where
could
the-
somebody fence it in? If
That's where
do
the
they own
city,
it,
the
you know?
city walks away from it and sells it to the owners on
Okay.
each side.
So the owner would own that part, that yellow.
Correct.
They could theoretically put a fence around it or do whatever.
Unless there's an easement. And so
the
sometimes
easement would
that's the
have to have
compromise
done
we've hit.
in
Is
an
where we,
earlier purchase.
I'm sorry,
An easement done on an earlier purchase, or do we?
the easement as a condition of purchase.
Okay.
And so from time to time, you'll see that done, where folks say, yes, I'm going to own it, but anybody can drive through it. You know, that they have some particular purpose in mind for it that would not impinge on the traffic.
Back, one other comment. As far as the rock in the alley, all these homeowners here, if they wanted to get together, they can have the city come in and lay rock at their cost, just as I did at where I live at. So the rock is irrelevant. I mean, you put rock there. I think you put rock in front of your garage there. Yeah. Okay, but as far as the alley itself, it's a public alley, and if these homeowners would want to rock the alley, they can do so.
Oh, I'm not disagreeing with that.
No, I'm just saying.
It's already rocked to where his overhead door is, so.
Yeah, but by looking, when I was out there, from what I could see, he can access from the north or the south. There's plenty of room. So, that's my opinion. All right.
Other comments from council? Questions? Okay, the motion is to deny. Roll call, please.
Comfort?
Yes.
Hermson?
Yes.
Ocean?
Yes.
Almond?
Yes.
Burnett?
Yes.
Caligari?
No.
Okay, motion carries for denial. Moving on to item D. This is to consider a resolution authorizing and approving the city manager signing and executing an improvement project grant agreement with the FAA. This is for work at the Oskaloosa Municipal Airport. So staff has received, back up here, current fuel tanks at the Oskaloosa Municipal Airport are not in compliance with the DNR regulations and requirements. And significant work is necessary to bring the system into compliance. So the city has submitted to the FAA a project application under May 12, 2023 date for a grant of federal funds. FAA approved the project for a fuel farm system, and project number and phase is in there. The FAA presented to the city the forms and documents required to be executed to formally enter into the agreement, which require, as part of the terms and conditions thereof, the city council has to give authority to execute the grant to the individuals signing the grant documentation. The attached resolution we have would authorize and grant formal approval and authority for the execution of the grant agreement as required by the FAA. This is part of the entitlement funds for fiscal year 2022 and fiscal year 2023, total of $216,294. In essence, what we're doing is authorizing and approving them all to sign on behalf of the city for these documents. Do we have a motion of support?
So move.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Hermson?
Yes.
Ocean?
Yes.
Almond?
Yes.
Burnett?
Yes.
Caligari?
Yes.
Comfort?
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Item E. This is to consider a resolution adopting a proposal for fiscal year 2024 property liability, automobile, equipment, and workers' comp insurance. Cost is $310,142. Margaret, would you care to address us?
Good evening, Council. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You have the presentation that you had an opportunity to review. Last year I went line by line because there were a lot of new council members. I won't put you through that again this year. So we'll do a little bit abbreviated.
Well, that's good. I was getting ready to walk out, Margaret. So,
I was expecting that.
It's my favorite part of the year.
So Oskaloosa has now completed 6 years with the EMC Safety Group program that Amy helped me work very, very hard to get into. The work comp coverage remains with IMWCA, the Iowa Municipalities Workers' Compensation Association. We're an independent agency, so we write for a lot of different markets. And within the world of municipalities, ICAP, which is a pool program, and EMC are the players in that market. Continental Western used to be involved, but they have now gotten out of that market. We review these markets each year, and we still feel that EMC is the best fit for Oskaloosa. EMC has some bells and whistles that are helpful, and they don't have some of the requirements that ICAP has. So, but we do look at it, because when there are big premium swings, we have to check out what the options are. Several years ago, I noted in my presentation that because of unprecedented property losses caused by weather events, which had recently been a derecho, which is now history, and wildfires, we were heading into what we were afraid was going to be a very hard market, because we expected increased cost of raw materials, which has happened, and that was going to impact the cost to replace damaged structures. There were going to be increasing premiums and deductibles, and unfortunately here we are, and we work daily to help manage these for our clients. So as you've already seen, the total insurance cost for the city is up $33,311 for 12% for this next fiscal year. As awful as that is, I want to reassure you that you're actually in the best tier of rates in the EMC Safety Group program. And it's because the loss control efforts that your staff has managed has resulted in minimal losses. Now the property insurance premium has gone up $21,780, but part of that is because if you remember last year we had just had new appraisals done on the historic buildings, this building and the fire department building, and then the library. We renewed it last year at about $7.2 million for the City Hall and Fire Station. Well, it went to $14 million in October, and this renewal quote comes in at $16.2 million for these structures. The library went from $7.3 million last year to $10.6 when the historical value was added to it, and the renewal quote came in at $12.6 million. So there's a lot of extra coverage, but if something happened to one of those buildings, it would take a lot to rebuild it. What came along with this is a change in deductibles, and what they quoted, and what is quoted on this presentation, was a $25,000 per building deductible for the city fire department building and the library building. They're pretty close together, so if a tornado came through and damaged one building, there's a pretty good chance it would damage both of them. And you could be looking at a $50,000 deductible for that wind event, which is horrific. So after I met with them all and Amy, we talked about we can spend some more premium and buy that deductible down from the $50,000 potential total to mirror the rest of the policy, which is $10,000 per occurrence. So if a storm comes through and damages lots of buildings in Oskaloosa, your responsibility would be the first $10,000, okay? So we said, let's at least look at that premium. And it came in at $3,889 to buy that deductible down. So it's an option. That quote just came in today. It was since the proposal was sent out with your packet. So that's an option that you folks can consider. Now, have you had both buildings damaged in a storm? No. But just as sure as we agree to a $25,000 per building deductible, I won't be sleeping when the storm comes. And I'll be calling you guys and saying, "Did you have any damage?" So it's an available option. So we'll keep moving. The commercial auto insurance premium increased $1,400 every year. There's multiple vehicle changes. This year, there was a concerted effort, I felt, to remove some of the older vehicles that maybe weren't being used as much, and so they got rid of them. We took them off the policy. We did add 3 new vehicles. One of them was a really nice fire truck, and so the net difference was only about $1,400. So it really helped to get rid of those old vehicles and help absorb the premium of the new ones. Cyber insurance was increased last year. The coverage was really ramped up from the old $250,000 where we went to $1 million, and it's the full-blown cyber policy, which was recommended. I think Amy heard that a lot at meetings that she went to in the mall, that $1 million was the recommendation. It includes extortion, which is a very real thing. Once they get that figured out, and it's been controlled a bit by the multi-factor authentication, well, it'll be something else next year. So we just keep gathering the information and passing it along and trying to keep that under control. So we expected, it's on a group policy that renews in April. We were hoping it would renew at $7,300, but it came in at $9,300. Like everything else, it's higher. You still have $1 million in coverage for that. So on a better note, workman's comp is your shining star of all your lines of coverage. And even with an increase in payrolls, because your payrolls do go up each year, rates went down a wee bit, but even with the increase in payrolls, your work comp premium decreased by about $9,400, which is 32% drop. That's driven by what's called that experience modification factor. That is a reflection of your claims and what is expected for your claims. Expected would be at 1. Last year it was at 0.9, so it's like, wow, their claims have dropped a bit. Now it's at 0.76, so you got a tremendous amount of credit for that, which is $12,833. Your premium started out at $53,000. Experience mod brought it down by $12,800. IMWCA has now allowed you, because you've been with them for so many years and have such good experience, they far and away have the best work comp program for municipalities. And you ended up with another 40% after the experience mod came off. So your $53,000 premium netted out at $20,253. That has everything to do with the safety programs that I remember Amy implementing the safety committees. Remember that about 7 or 8 years ago? And the leaders of every department have supported it and have kept those rules and have worked hard for everyone to go home safe at the end of the day, and they have. So your experience has had huge impact. So, anybody have any questions so far on anything? Okay. The third-party claims administration for the police and fire and the company nurse, there have been fewer claims with the police and fire, and that rate has actually gone down. As a separate program where a third-party administrator can manage those, so it takes it off of the city administration desk. That dropped from $2,000 charge down to $1,000. So the bottom line is that your entire EMC safety group program and the work comp came in with an increase of 12%. So it can remain at that, or you can choose to buy the deductible down at the $3,889. If we go a little bit further down in the presentation, the builder's risk policy is listed for the rec center. That renews in October, and as progress is made on that project, that can be transferred over to the regular EMC policy, or if there's a portion of it left under builder's risk, that can be managed under that. But I just want you to know that that's still out there, and that remains in force, and we'll look at that again as the project progresses, and then again in October, depending on what happens this summer. This year, the city received $5,022 in a dividend, and although they are not guaranteed, last year was the only year that one hasn't been received for many, many years. That was directly tied to the derecho, because they had so many schools and cities hit. So the total dividends that the city has received since moving to EMC in 2017 are right in the vicinity of $48,500. So you're having a good rate and being in the good tier of rates has been good, and the efforts to move the old equipment out has saved in premiums, and then the dividends have helped. Anybody have any questions?
I do.
Yes.
So the buildings, so
Yeah.
with a higher deductible of $50,000, we can buy that down for $3,000, and that gets me $10,000 to cover that same amount as the 50 would?
That's correct.
All right, so then.
That would be if both buildings were damaged at once.
Right,
because
so
there's
essentially,
25,000
it'd take me 13 years to, because the difference is 40 grand, really, right? So it'd take me 13 years to pay that then, right? Yeah, okay. I like the idea of buying down the deductible, but, yeah.
Was it 3,000 or 3,200, you said?
Pardon?
How much was the buy down?
$3,889.
Almost 4 grand, so it's probably gonna be about 12 years in, but still, I think that, yeah. If I was doing it, that's what I would do, personally, yeah.
Then you know what your defined cost is, and
Right.
10,000 is a bit
Yeah.
more manageable than the potential for 50. That's, here again, it's your call, at least it's another option out there.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much, Margaret. Any other questions for Margaret?
I saw a couple on your notes. The facade project, will we save some money because that's completed?
The what? The
Since the facade
yeah,
project is
that was
completed.
completed, so Sean let me know. EMC will prorate it, and so he keeps an eye on it, and when the project gets completed, he gives me a call. I take it off the policy, and then you get the money back.
And did that added K-9 add any insurance risk?
It was very minimal cost.
Teasing.
Yeah. Well, and along with that, the police department is also a participant in the lexical program, where they're utilizing policies and procedures, and they've worked hard on that. Eventually, that will amount to another 10% of savings on the law enforcement portion.
Oh,
so thank
having
you
that.
for doing that.
Oh.
That's something specific that's
Dog's
available.
paying for himself.
And they're working towards that.
Okay.
10% is 10%.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything else?
Nope. Thank you very much, Margaret.
Thanks, Margaret.
Okay. So we have the package presented to us and one option proposal to buy down to a $10,000 deductible. Does anybody care to make a motion?
I'll make a motion
To
do the policy with a $3,000 buy down to get us for $10,000 deductible.
Okay, got one motion.
Second.
Okay, second over there. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Ocean,
Yes.
Almond.
Yes.
Burnett.
Yes.
Calgery,
Yes.
Comfort,
Yes.
Hermson.
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Next is a resolution amending the 2023 fee schedule that includes the registration of vacant buildings. In the explanation, it says if the City Council adopts the vacant buildings code, we did that through the consent agenda. The council also creates the registration fee to generate revenue needed to implement the program. The attached resolution amends the city's 2023 fee schedule to create a $100 annual registration fee and an unregistered property fee of $50 per day, up to a maximum of $500 per property. Building owners pay the registration fee every year to cover administration and inspection costs. That estimate is $99.29 per building, and so the proposed annual registration fee of $100 pretty much just covers that. So the cost is including staff time, vehicle and mileage costs, software, hardware, communications, postage related costs. So the recommendation from staff is to approve. Do we have a motion so far? Okay. Discussion?
Yeah, quick question.
Yeah.
This probably goes back to the code that we just approved in the
Consent.
consent, thank you. And that is, so let's say that I own a home, I purchase another home, and I'm trying to sell my old home. How long do I have before I have to pay the $100 fee?
Okay, I want to make sure I understand.
So I own a home right now, right? And I go out and buy a house. And I move into my new house. I put my other house up for sale. How long do I have for that? That's a vacant property at that point because I moved out of it. How long do I have before I have to pay the $100 fee?
Actually, there isn't a specific time frame that I recall offhand, as long as it is actively listed for sale, that property. We're trying to sell
Okay.
It is? Okay, cool.
Yes,
Awesome.
it is.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you have to make some effort. You have to-
I understand. Yeah. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Is there a difference between residential buildings and business?
No, it is the same fee.
It is?
Yes.
Okay. So, and I'd like to add too, Canada in their provinces and their cities are doing an underutilized building tax, which is different than a vacant building, which I thought, and then there's exemptions for, cabins and things like that in rural areas. But it's an interesting idea that if you own a building, but you're doing nothing with it, it's not serving the economy of that city or town, there's a tax. So that there's something coming in. So anyway, I thought that was kind of an interesting idea. It might generate more revenue than just the vacant building. Fine.
Okay. Other thoughts or comments? Roll call, please.
Almond.
Yes.
Burnett.
Yes.
Calgery,
Yes.
Comfort,
Yes.
Hermson,
Yes.
Ocean.
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Item G. This is to consider a resolution approving the professional services agreement with Garden & Associates for the engineering services on the 2024 sanitary sewer project. This is the one that's over in the North Park area. We want to get into an agreement with them for those services. It was initially designed by Gardens as Project 3 for the inflow and infiltration improvements project, but was not able to be completed at that time due to budget constraints. The scope of the services for the project generally includes final plan and spec revisions, bid phase services, and construction phase services for the reconstruction of the sanitary sewer in the vicinity of North Park Street, starting at F Avenue East and ending east of the city limits along North Park Street. Garden prepared the agreement, total amount not to exceed $125,900. Do we have a motion of approval for the required engineering services?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on that? Hard to do without. Roll call, please.
Burnett,
Yes.
Calgery,
Yes.
Comfort,
Yes.
Hermson,
Yes.
Ocean,
Yes.
Almond,
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Gets us to item H. This is an ordinance amending Title 17 having to do with zoning, changing the downtown residential land use type to mixed-use residential, and allowing it in all business districts. And this is the second reading for it. So it amends the zoning code Title 17 to allow mixed-use commercial residential buildings in all commercial zoning districts. The amendment will accommodate a new development proposal called One West that's consistent with the comprehensive plan. At the May 2nd meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission held a public hearing on the proposed ordinance. No public comments were received, and the commission voted to recommend unanimous approval. The City Council also held a public hearing, and the first reading on June 5th received no comments. So our recommended action here is to accommodate the site plan approval with development project, and there is also a recommendation here to suspend the rule requiring the 3 separate readings. First off, do we have a motion of support for the site plan approval? Or, excuse me, for the zoning?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on that?
So the downtown will be mixed use, right?
Yes, that will be one of the areas.
Right, and then out west.
Any commercial district, yes.
Right, okay.
Any other comments on the zoning? Do we have a motion to waive the third reading?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on that? Okay, roll call on waiving the third reading.
Calgery,
Yes.
Comfort,
Yes.
Hermson,
Yes.
Ocean,
Yes.
Almond,
Yes.
Burnett,
Yes.
Okay, that passes. And now, regarding the zoning itself, the roll call, please.
Comfort,
Yes.
Hermson,
Yes.
Ocean,
Yes.
Almond,
Yes.
Burnett,
Yes.
Calgery,
Yes.
Okay, that passes. So, moving to item I. This is to consider a resolution approving a site plan for One West, a mixed-use building at Gateway Commercial Park. There's a lot of narrative in here, but I bet Sean can cover it instead of me.
I'll give it a shot. Thank you, Mayor.
He's done.
That's it. Just don't walk out on it. All right, so this is our latest site plan application. It's for a project called One West. It's located at Gateway Commercial Park. The developer is Brian Ridge of Commercial Edge Development. Brian is also doing our downtown old post office project. So what we're doing now for most site plans going forward is we're going to put this together in a presentation format. Cammie Barber in our office helped pretty this up. I know, Sean, you commented about that before as well. Did a great job, so a lot of what you see here is Cammie's work. This is the exterior rendering that they're proposing. At least at the hearing at Planning and Zoning, the color scheme has not yet been finalized. Brian did comment that he's leaning toward stone veneer masonry on the lower levels, and then the remaining colors that you see here will likely be fiber cement siding on all 4 sides. And this would be what would be considered the front view of the building with the potential for 3 tenant spaces, and this would be facing north. Now you can see here at a smaller scale, actually, I think what I need to do is I need to do this. That looks a little bit better. Sorry about that. So this is a little bit closer view, but you can see that site plan overlaid over our aerial photograph. This is where it would be located at Gateway. This is what's known as Outlot C. It'll be located on the majority of that lot. This to the north is the Fairfield Inn. You can see the location of 63 and Highway 92, or A Avenue just to the north there.
And we'll show you a closer up view here, but I'll kind of give you a better description here to follow. The lower level would be in the basement. It will contain indoor parking, about 40 stalls. It will also contain an elevator access to all upper floors. The first floor would be used for offices. Those are shown on the site plan, or the floor plan rather. And then the rest of the space is not yet programmed. It could be any kind of retail commercial space. The developer is proposing a drive-through lane on the west side of the building, and I'll show you that as well, just in case a future tenant would like to have a drive-through for food service or other services. And then the top 2 floors will be apartments, a total of 31 apartments, a mix of single, 2, and 3 bedrooms. Will also contain, most of those units will also contain balconies as well. So this is a view of the lower level with the 40 parking stalls and then the stairwell and elevator access on the east side of the building. This is the main floor, first floor of the building. I mentioned the office spaces. That's what you can see here. It's about 40% of the space, and then this on the east side, or excuse me, the west side of the building would be unprogrammed until they do find a tenant for the remainder of that space. This could potentially serve 2 additional tenants if they would like, for a total of 3. Second level apartments, I believe there were 16 apartments on this floor. You can see the balconies shaded here, top and bottom. And then lastly, the third level or top floor with a very similar layout, 15 apartments as well. Here's another view of the exterior of the building, front and rear. You can see the window placement, doors, mix of materials. The building height is right at our zoning limit. We're about 45 feet, which is something that we made sure would be adequate within the zoning district. Another view of the sides, and you can see how it would slope down there to the rear. And then on the right is the survey plat to carve that property out for the development. And then the last 2 slides here are the site plan itself. You can see the building footprint here, essentially facing north. They're proposing access to the parking lot from 3 different locations. This on the left-hand side of the screen, west side of the building, is the drive-through that I mentioned. So this would be the drive-through lane. This would be the access here to the lower level rear parking, with also some additional parking to the rear. And then of course main customer parking out front. I'd also point out that they're showing a a trail, recreation trail extension. It's a 10-foot wide trail rather than a 5-foot wide sidewalk that would extend around the front perimeter of the property to the property's edge. And then also street trees is required. Our landscaping ordinance does require street trees for any new development. So they're showing that on the plan as well. And then the last sheet is a very similar view, just showing the topography or the slope of the land. So this did go to the Planning and Zoning Commission on June 5th. They're recommending unanimous approval. Staff concurs and would ask for your vote. Okay. Were there any challenges as far as handling the amount of water coming off of the parking areas, those sorts of things? That's a great question, and I think Sean could chime in on that as well, but if I recall correctly, there's a regional detention basin for the entire subdivision. Okay. Yep. Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah. Okay. Yep. So no challenges there, Mr. Mayor. Okay. Do we have any estimate on what the taxable value would be once this thing is built? I have not heard a number from the developer. Now, if this is approved and we move forward to the building plan submittal for permits, then we would come up with our own valuation at that point and have a better number. So unfortunately, no, not at this point. Certainly north of $1, so I think that's a fair bet, yes.
I think you just answered my question, but front elevation you said could change, so I'm assuming we'll get the opportunity to say yay or nay to that as the permitting process happens. Are you referring to the color scheme? Yes. Yeah. You know, because you mentioned stone as well. So front elevation, I mean, what they're going to use for materials. Right. I don't want to say yes to something that isn't a final yes. You know, right. Yeah. So that's a fair question as well. Now, we do have building material standards in the zoning code, and that's something that staff will verify before we issue the building permit when they do make that final decision. So in other words, when we vote tonight, we're saying whatever he comes up with, as long as you guys approve it, it doesn't come back to us again, correct? That's correct. Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm. On the apartments, so I'm trying to look at this diagram. Do you know what the average square footage is? Or do you know what it is like for the 3-bedroom? The third is the 3-bedroom on the second floor?
I don't remember the number offhand now. Maybe we could,
just
this is all I have here available. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have that number.
So looking at this, at the floor levels, it looks like there's a main hall going down the middle,
Mm-hmm.
and then the apartments on either side,
Correct.
like a big hotel.
Correct.
Oh, it's nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go back to my elevation question again.
Yeah.
You said there may be stone, but if I remember right in the code that we developed a couple of years ago, there has to be stone if it's facing the street, doesn't it?
No, stone is one of the acceptable materials. We also allow fiber cement and a number of other materials as well. Could be stone, could be brick, could be ephes, could be stucco. Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
So I have two questions. It's located on Coal Mine Loop, and I imagine that's been, because at Preservation Iowa, they said they really want to be concerned where old coal mines have been, where construction is going on. You don't want a sinkhole.
Yeah, that's also been part of our conversations.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. The
We
developers,
have some assurance
the
on that.
developer is well aware of the history of coal mines there. Some of
Right.
those are mapped. In fact, you can see one of the areas here is one of the former coal mines that's been identified on the site. That will remain under the current ownership. It won't be transferred to the developer and is not part of this lot. The question did come up at P&Z as well, and Brian Ridge was in attendance. The developer was there and did mention that they will do soil borings as part of their due diligence.
As far as income levels for the proposed renters, do you have any idea? Because a lot of times they'll say this is low to middle income, which is good economically for a community. I don't know.
Yeah. My understanding, based on conversations, is that these are not income-based apartments, that these would be market rate apartments. Now, I don't recall a specific rent amount that they were aiming for the bedroom units, but these would not be considered low income. I think, and Brad, correct me if I'm wrong, I think they are aiming, this would be workforce, housing workforce. I think that's what they have in mind.
Any other comments from council?
Just think it's exciting that, you know, there's people who want to come and build.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
just the opportunities, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Plus the balconies, I got a weakness for balconies. It's a nice touch.
I think it would be a nice view out there.
Yes.
Yeah, we need the apartments.
We do. Trust me, I have a
Market rate.
Yeah. 27-year-old daughter. We need apartments in this town.
Yeah, especially with the loss of the last two buildings, not the loss, but that Burrell Apartments didn't complete. You know, they built 36 of 60. So I think this will go a long way of filling that need.
So the gentleman that bought those isn't gonna build anything else?
We have not heard any plans for them to move forward.
Gotcha.
Correct.
Okay.
The new owner.
The ones that are there, I think, are full, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
You
okay.
can't rent in this town.
Okay, thank you very much, Sean.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Any other comments? Do we have a motion of support for the site plan?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Carson?
Yes.
Ocean?
Yes.
Almond?
Yes.
Burnett?
Yes.
Aljuri?
Yes.
Comfort?
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Item J, this is a resolution approving an amendment to a professional service agreement with Garden and Associates again. This has to do with South 7th Street Improvements Project. And so we would like to approve an amendment to the professional services agreement with Garden for the construction phase services for South 7th Street. The project is located at South 7th between 9th Avenue and 15th Avenue. The original contract included design phase services for both this project and the Meadow Creek reconstruction project, which is already completed. So Garden is proposing a contract amendment for a net change of $12,250. So the total contract will be $373,850. The amendment reduces the existing contract by $122,000 for previously contracted services which were unused, and then adds $134,250 for the construction phase services of the project. Construction inspection services are eligible to be reimbursed by the Surface Transportation Block Grant funding. That's already been approved by the Area 15 Regional Planning Commission. And so staff is recommending we approve the resolution. Do we have a motion of support for that?
Moved.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ocean?
Yes.
Almond?
Yes.
Burnett?
Yes.
Calgery,
Yes.
Comfort,
Yes.
Hermson,
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Last is item K is to consider a resolution awarding contract for the South 7th Street Improvements Project. This was let by the Iowa DOT according to the City Council authorization. 5 bids received, lowest bid submitted by Jones Contracting Corp. It was in an amount of $1,195,777, which is $57,782 lower than the engineer's estimate of $1,253,559. Engineering consultant for the project, Garden and Associates, reviewed the bids and is recommending the award of contract to Jones. Product will be funded by Surface Transportation Block Grant funding from the Iowa DOT. If awarded, the construction is anticipated to begin in July, with 75 working days assigned to the project. And if approved, the DOT also assigned a contingency amount of 6% of the construction contract, which is $71,746.62, for unforeseen circumstances, which would be administered by the city manager for city approval. The project is fully funded by the STBG up to $1,400,000, so if construction engineering contract and this contract are both approved as presented in the meeting, city would be responsible for a total of $1,773.62 of the approved contingency if it was used. And so, let's see, the DOT uses online system for contract approvals, so it will authorize staff to process the contract documentation on this motion. Do we have a motion of approval of this resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Almond,
Yes.
Burnett,
Yes.
Calgery,
Yes.
Comfort,
Yes.
Hermson,
Yes.
Ocean,
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Gets us to the end of our regular agenda. Report from city staff. City manager, anything? Okay. City clerk, anything?
No, sir, thank you.
Okay. City attorney, anything?
Nothing, thank you, sir.
Okay. Individual council members. Steve.
Yeah, I don't usually say something, so tonight I'm going to use it as my public service announcement. The opinions expressed are solely those of mine and not of any of the city, so I'll say that out front.
This ought to be good.
It should be, yeah. So we've got folks that want to run for city council, and you know what? I commend them. I can't tell you how important it is that we have people that want to participate. What I would challenge anybody that runs for city council is that they take the me out of the equation and consider the we. And let me explain to you what I'm talking about. You know, we've talked about people that want the 3 lanes to turn back into 4 lanes. And one of the excuses, one of the reasons, it's not an excuse, I apologize. One of the reasons is because I can get my kids to school 5 minutes faster. Well, that's great, but the fact of the matter is data suggests, data tells us that what we did was safer. And we built a decision based on safety, not on somebody's convenience of getting to school quicker. If I have children that are going to school now, I would take the 5 minutes over, I would take the safety over the 5 minutes. But that's my opinion, right? So there are some people obviously that would rather do the other. The second example I want to give has to do with, oh, I lost my train of thought now. So has to do with, I've seen someone talk about the fact that I think wants to run for city council, that they don't feel that the folks up here are real interested in fixing our streets. And while I'm not going to argue that question one way or the other, what I do hope is if they get elected, they bring some financing with them.
No kidding.
What you didn't see here tonight is this 7th Street project is going to take us from 9th to 15th. It's 0.35 miles, and it's $1.2 million. Okay? So unless you've got some money somewhere, we don't have the money to do more streets. It's that simple, okay? The third thing is that we've come into a bit of a problem, just like every other community in the United States for the most part, and that there's not enough money to go around. So in other words, if I'm not mistaken, and Amal can correct me if I'm wrong, the difference in what we had to spend in our checking account this year from last year was a whole $1,000, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, okay? So I have $1,000 more to spend this year. Margaret just stood up here a little while ago and told us that our insurance is going to go up $33,000. And I have $1,000 more to spend this year. So where does it come from? So the thought process is that our job is to say, how do I keep Oskaloosa alive 10 years from now, 15 years from now, 20 years from now? And one of those things is you look at an airport. And I'm not going to debate the airport. I'm not going to do any of that. But that is one way that you, and I can't even tell you for sure that what we do will work. I can tell you that it won't work if we don't try. But the opportunity here is to try and make us different than other places, and to try and get us, people always say, I mean, I heard the mayor, some lady was up here a couple of weeks ago saying, why don't you get more big business in town? You want to know what the opportunity is to get more big businesses in town? It's perhaps to have an airport here. I will probably never use the airport. But remember what I said to start this? It's not about me, it's about we. And so when you run for office, and if you get elected, I would beg you to think about what's best for 11,000 people and not what's best for 200 people that might sign a petition, because that leaves 10,800 other people that you're not thinking about. Thank you.
Okay. Care to follow that?
I can't follow that. That was perfect. That was perfect. Well said.
Well done.
Yeah.
Okay. Janet?
Just want to thank everybody for coming out to Art on the Square Friday after 5 barbecue for badges. We really love being able to host community events, and we couldn't do it without the support of volunteers. So thank everybody for all the hard work that goes into
It was well
this.
done. I was at the art thing. I mean, it's been a great last couple of weeks. Oski should be really proud. Nice job.
Charlie?
I can't follow Steve.
Usually I'm last, so I thought I'd be the end,
I think I was set up.
Either way, we're all thinking it. Joe, welcome back, by the way.
Oh, thanks. I just want to say a big ditto what Burnett just said, and I can totally agree what you just said. So, well said.
Okay. Lisa?
Yes, I would say too, with city government, there's all sorts of small and large pieces, and it's very much doing the work. It's called public service for a reason in that. And so I wanted to give a couple thank yous. I wanted to thank Alex. She helped me with a very small computer problem that was frustrating me. But she also had worked with one of my friends who, I'm sorry, she's from Texas and is not easy to please. And she was just like glowing about you. And we're going to get a Lions water fountain at the playground. I'm so happy because it's fun. And some things should be fun in that. And I want to give a huge, huge thank you to the library. Well, Carnegie had said, and the reason for building Carnegie libraries, and I've done talks at libraries over 113 in the state, so I know libraries. And I remember from years ago how impressed I was with Oskaloosa's library and that. And I was there for a meeting, and I brought cookies to the staff person, and I hate to say it, but she jumped a little bit. You know, because she didn't know why I was approaching the desk with this aluminum foil. And so I just wanted to realize that, you know, you are under a lot of stress, and I just really, really appreciate libraries. We moved a lot when I was a kid. I was in 5 different towns by the time I was in 5th grade. The first thing we did was find the grocery store. The second thing Mom did was find the library. So I can't tell you how much that has saved me over the years. Well done.
Well said. Cool. Okay. And I don't have anything to add at this point, certainly. So next item up is the opportunity for a closed session. This is consider holding a closed session under Iowa Code Section 21.5.1.I. This is to evaluate the professional competency of an individual whose appointment, hiring, performance, or discharge is being considered when necessary to prevent needless irreparable injury to that person's reputation, and that the individual has requested a closed session. So we will be doing an evaluation on City Manager Amal since her hire by the city. So do we have a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Okay. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Burnett?
Yes.
Calgary?
Yes.
Comfort?
Yes.
Hermson?
Yes.
Ocean?
Yes.
Allman?
Yes.
Okay, that passes. So we'll go into closed session at this time and dismiss the audience.
I can bring cookies too. Did you?
We are out of closed session. We have done the performance review of the city manager, and it was a good review. With that, we have no further business tonight. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
I'm hangry.
Need a roll call?